Mindful Life Practice community.
It's recording. So welcome to your 60-minute slow flow and restore practice. As always, I invite you to make this practice your own, just tuning into the feedback and the desires and feelings of your body tonight. So if anything doesn't feel good, feel free to modify or do something else. And if you're craving more or less movement that I'm suggesting, feel free to also listen to that. And if anything causes you any pain or any tingling or numbness sensations, please come out if it's all together. And I'll just stay close by while we wait for one more. So once you've arrived and landed on your prop or on your cushion, I invite you to rest your hands wherever it feels comfortable, and then to soften your gaze or close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. Just take a few moments to breathe in silence together. Next, I invite you to focus on the points of connection between your seat and your legs and the floor and the ground beneath you. It's really anchoring and surrendering the weight of your lower body into the floor. And just taking a few moments just to acknowledge or to bring into your awareness everything that the earth has witnessed and experienced to become what it is in this moment. The same way that everything that we have experienced and encountered has led us together in this moment on our mats. And then shifting our focus to bring it maybe slowly all the way up from the ground, up our spines. And just making any micro movements or adjustments that would allow us to grow a little bit taller and to sit a little bit more effortlessly. Maybe it's relaxing the shoulders and the shoulder blades down the back. Or bringing a really slight engagement into the core, into the belly, so that you feel supported and elongated into your torso. And spending the next few moments just focusing on the sensations of breathing without judgment or without labeling, just being with our breath. And we'll stay seated first few moments and movements, I invite you either to stay on your seated prop or on your cushion, and maybe even to keep your eyes closed or your gaze softened if you feel comfortable doing that. So to start, we'll bring our hands and our fingertips out to the side by our seat. And we'll take 3 sun breaths together, keeping that contact with the ground with our legs and at length in the spine. So with our next inhale, we'll circle the arms up and around us, bring the palms to touch. And we'll exhale the palms to center and back down our sides. And we'll take 2 more like this. Inhaling to circle the arms up above. And exhaling the hands back down. And 1 more following your own breath. Next, we can bring the fingertips out to the sides again. Leaving the fingertips of the left hand where they are. We can inhale our right arm up in the air in line with our shoulder. And then exhale to side bend over to the left. Maybe walking the fingertips away or walking the palm down and away. And then shining the heart forwards, making sure that we're not closing in toward the right side, but that we're kind of imagining that we're moving our torso behind 2 planes of glass. Keeping your spine long and simply bending over to the right. With your next inhale, you can come back up to center, bringing both arms into the air. And then exhale, bring the right arm down and gently side bending over that side. And then maybe experimenting with the placement of your neck, finding the one that feels effortless and comfortable. With the next inhale, we'll bring both arms back up into the air, bring your spine back to center. And we'll exhale to twist over to the left. So bring the front arm resting on the right knee and the back hand behind us. Inhaling with a long spine and exhaling to let our head and gaze lead us into the twist. Breathing with the sensations around the torso. An option to stay here in the twist or to inhale our left arm up above in line with the shoulder. And then exhale to side bend over to the right. So gently encouraging the right shoulder toward the right knee, bending and twisting. If we've bended over, we'll inhale to come back with a straight spine and exhale to release that twist coming back to center. The next inhale, we'll circle the arms up into the air and exhale to twist over to the left. Landing with the hands growing tall in the spine and letting our heart, our head, and our gaze lead us into the twist. Option to stay or to inhale our right arm up in the air and then to exhale and bend over toward the left knee. Using our breath as a guide, or the sensations in the torso as a guide, let us know if we can go deeper or if we should scale back a little bit. So next inhale, we'll come back with a straight spine. And we'll exhale to unleash the twist and come back to center. And maybe coming up off of our prop for the next few moments, softening the gaze or closing the eyes again. Crossing the legs the outward way, so bring the opposite foot in front of us, adjusting the seat if needed. And we can bring our hands to our knees and we'll do a few rounds of seated cat and cow. So with our next inhale, we'll curl the tailbone toward the back of our room, elongating the front body, lifting the gaze. And exhaling to round the tailbone under, elongating the back body, so rounding. Inhaling to open up toward the front of the room. And exhaling to round and elongate the back. Taking 5 more rounds, slowly following your breath. And then shifting or changing or adding to that movement if your spine is asking you to do so. Doing 1 more round if you've lost count. Coming back to center, we'll just be here for a few more breaths. We can inhale our arms out, open side to side. And then exhale, bring the right arm underneath the left and giving ourselves a little butterfly hug. So holding on to the back of the shoulder blades, maybe tapping ourselves with our fingers. Breathing here for a few breaths. With our next inhale, we'll open the arms out side to side again. And exhale to cross the left arm under. Coming into our butterfly hug. And then releasing your arms down whenever you feel balanced. And then we'll come into a tabletop shape to warm up our wrists. Bring our hands, the fingertips facing the front of the mat. And then finding our version of table and then bringing movement to it right away. So you can shift the hips and the arms front to back or side to side. And for the next few breaths, maybe bringing the fingertips away from one another and then shifting and moving for a few breaths here. And then bring the fingertips toward one another, so toward the center of our mats. And bringing some movement here. So nothing that makes you feel uncomfortable or fearful, but just enough to remind your wrists of all the ways in which they can move that maybe sometimes they forget when we're at the computer all day. If you're like me. And then we can return our hands to center. And just breathe here in our strong table shape. So pushing the ground away from us with the hands, with the knees, and the feet to the toes. And then we'll come into some low lunges from our table. So with our next inhale, we can lift the left knee and step the left foot between the hands. And then maybe coming onto the fingertips and rocking front to back or side to side to awaken the hips a little bit more. An option to double up your mat or to pad the back knee if your kneecap feels tender. Then pressing into the ground with the feet and the leg. We'll inhale and come all the way up into our low lunge. Bring your arms into the air. And then again, here doing any gentle rocking or swaying until you feel comfortable where you can land and press into the ground and grow tall into the legs and growing tall from the torso. An option to stay here or to bring the left arm down by your side, inhaling here for length, and then exhaling with a gentle side bend, again, as if we're moving our torso between two planes of glass, one in front and one in back. So making sure that we're not rolling that right shoulder forward, but that it's staying in line with the left. So pressing into the legs, breathing fully. And if you're bended over, we can inhale to come back up to center, lifting both arms up. And then exhale to land with the hands. And then we'll switch the legs. So we'll step back with the left foot and step forward with the right. And then maybe rocking front to back here again and patting the knees if they're speaking to you. And then once you feel comfortable, anchoring into those points of contact with the ground and inhaling ourselves into our lunge. So growing from the feet and from the pelvis. Engaging the core and the sides of the body and the arms. An option to stay here working on our foundation. Or next we can bring the right arm down by our side, inhaling here for length and exhaling to side bend over to the right. Just tuning into the sensations and adjusting as required, and maybe taking note. What's that kink in my lower back, I wonder? And with our next inhale, we can come back up with both arms in the air if we've left that position. And exhale to bring the hands down to the frame of the foot. Next, we'll curl the toes of the back foot under and we'll step back to find our first downward dog. So stepping both feet back, pressing the ground away from us, shining the seat toward the sky, and taking any movement to lengthen the legs or move the hips, sway in the hips. And again, pressing the ground away from us with the hands, the toes, that we're activating the legs and the arms and not collapsing into our joints, into the ground. And the heels don't have to touch. You can have a generous bend in the knee. And then we'll breathe here for another few breaths. With our next inhale, we can bend our knees looking up at the top of the mat, and then slowly walk ourselves all the way to the top of the mat. Finding the feet about that hip width distance apart, folding at the hips and finding our forward folds. Again, we can have a generous bend in the knee, option to hook the thumbs into the elbows and swing side to side. Anchoring with our feet, pressing the ground away from us, and breathing with the sensations. Releasing the thumbs if we had them hooked, and slightly engaging the core. We'll slowly roll ourselves up to stand, pressing the ground away from us, with the head and neck coming last, and then we can take a few shoulder rolls. Removing layers if needed, or swaying the hips side to side, and then we'll flow and balance a little bit more. So from our mountain, with our next inhale, we can circle the arms up above the head to look at the thumbs. And exhale to fold over the legs, finding our forward fold. The next inhale, we'll halfway lift, trace the tops of the legs. And then we'll exhale to plant the fingertips and step back with the left foot. And here we'll find our high lunge or option to come down to your low lunge. So again, here you can rock front and back, working those kinks out in the hips or in the ankles. And once we've anchored our feet and our toes, we're pressing into the ground, trusting our legs, and coming all the way up with an inhale. Bring the arms up above the head. And here we want to really anchor into the front big toe mound, making sure our right knee is tracking the second or third toe, engaging the belly. And an option to stay here or to exhale and twist open toward the right, so toward the front of the leg. Bring the arms out, the left arm in front and the right arm in the back. Pressing into the ground. Picturing as if we're trying to zip the inner thighs together, so to really engage those legs. An option to come back to center if this is uncomfortable. Or if not, we can bend toward the ground and plant the fingertips to the palm of the left hand inside of the left foot. And then revolve a little bit more into that twist over to the right side root. And with our next exhale, we'll all meet ourselves into our lower high lunge and we'll frame the front foot, planting both palms down. You can take one more inhale here and then exhale to find our downward dog. So stepping back, finding your downward dog. And we can stay here. Our option to flow to our vinyasa. So if you want to flow with me, with our next inhale, we can come into a plank. So rolling into a plank. And then exhale, bring the knees down and finding the ground with the torso. Then we can inhale to zip the legs together, rise with the torso, and exhale back to the ground. And then we can all inhale to push up and back and all meet one another into downward dog. Moving or swaying or finding stillness. And with our next inhale, we can look up and bend the knees. And then we'll step with the left foot. And then we'll find our lunge on the side. So staying high or finding the ground with the right knee. Then option to rock or sway again. Really to anchor into the front foot, into the back toes, engaging the core. And we'll inhale to rise all the way up. Bring the arms into the air. And landing here, pressing into the front big toe mound. Front knee is striking the second or third toe. Option to stay. Or to exhale and twist open toward the left. So bring the right arm in front of us, the left behind us. Picturing like ourselves zipping our inner thighs toward one another so that we strengthen into our legs. And then option to stay or to come back to center or to find the ground with your right arm or fingertips. And then opening out even more into your twist, if that's accessible to you today. And with the next exhale, we'll all find ourselves framing the front foot. Bring both hands down. And then with our next inhale, we'll step to the top of the mat and exhale into a forward fold. You will inhale to halfway lift, tracing the front of the legs. And exhaling back to fold. With our next inhale, we'll circle and come all the way up to stand, arms above the head. And exhale the hands through prayer. So a little bit more flowing. We'll inhale to circle the arms up above ourselves. And then exhale to fold over the legs. We'll inhale to halfway lift. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands to the ground. Step back with the left foot. And then find your warrior two legs. So bring the back foot parallel to the long edge of the mat, opening into the hips. And windmilling the arms open, coming up to stand into our warrior two. So adjusting the stance if needed. Making sure the front knee again is striking the second or third toe. Slight engagement into the core. Pressing into the feet. And then option to stay or to flow with me for a few breaths. So with our inhale, we'll flip the front palm. Let the back arm land at the back leg and open up into a crescent. And with our exhale, we'll bring the hand or the forearm of the right arm on the right leg, elongating the left side body with the arm above the head. We will inhale to come back toward the back leg. And exhale toward the front leg. And taking two more like this, following your own breath. If you'd like to take that invitation. Then we'll all meet into our warrior two whenever we're ready. You can take one more inhale here. And then we'll exhale, back heel comes up, and we'll frame the front foot, planting the palms. Inhaling here and exhaling into our downward dog, staying here or flowing through your vinyasa. So if we flow, we can inhale to plank and exhale to find the ground. Inhaling to baby cobra. Exhaling to the ground. And we'll inhale to push up and back and all meet each other into our downward dog. Taking a few breaths here to land, to stretch, and to strengthen. With our next inhale, we'll look at the top of the mat, bend the knees. We'll step up with our left foot and then find our warrior two on the side. So bending into the front leg and turning the back foot parallel to the long edge of the mat, pressing into the feet and inhaling to pop up into our warrior two. And then adjusting our stance as needed, opening the hips and the legs away from one another, engaging the core. Then option to stay here into our warrior two or to flow for the next few breaths. So with our inhale, letting the back arm rest and bring the left arm, above the head. And then exhaling, hand or elbow onto the leading leg, elongating the right arm. Taking 3 more following your own breaths. Inhaling back. And exhaling toward the front. Taking 2 more on your own. And we'll all meet each other into our warrior two. Feeling our thighs working, feeling our ankles working. And then we can bring our hands to our hips. We'll elongate the front leg and bring the toes of the left leg to meet the right, or finding yourself into a wide-legged shape where you can still see me or see one another. And then options for the hands to stay on the hips or to bring the arms behind us and interlacing the fingers and then pushing the palms down, then elongating and opening into the collarbone and the heart. We'll inhale here for length, and then we'll exhale to fold over the lips into a wide-legged fold, letting the hands travel above you. We're pressing into the feet, the heels, the toes. Option for a micro bend into the knees, and we'll breathe here for a few breaths. So pressing into the feet, an option to rest the palms on the lower back if you had interlaced. With the next inhale, we'll come all the way back up. You can inhale the arms up into the air. And then the option to stay and do this again, or to open the feet out at 45. And then exhale to sink the seat, come into a squat, a wide-legged squat and goddess squat. An option for the arms to stay or to bend at the elbows, engaging the core, pressing into the feet and the toes, growing tall into her spine and opening into the arms. Maybe we can flow here. Let's flow for a few breaths. So with our next inhale, we'll stay here. And then exhale to push, elongate the legs, elongate the arms above the head. Inhale to sink back into our goddess. Exhale to push and lengthen. Taking 2 more following your own breath. Slow and controlled. Pushing, strengthening, feeling and breathing. Then we can all land and meet back into our goddess squat. And then option to stay into our goddess squat, or to inhale and elongate the legs. And then bringing our heel toeing your feet a bit closer together. And then we'll be headed for a full yogi squat. So you can bring our hands to heart center. And then option to sink and to come down at 90 degrees into a more of a traditional squat, or to bounce and to find our seat all the way back down. And then option to grab block and put it under your seat if that makes you feel more safe, so that you can sink and you have something to catch you. And then option just to sway and open the hips here for a few breaths, or to land into your goddess, into your full yogi squat, pressing the elbows into the knees, knees into the elbows. And then as we did at the beginning, focusing on lengthening the spine, bring the shoulders down, elongating the collarbone and the heart, feeling our ankles work and our glutes work. We can take one more inhale here. And then exhale and come push all the way back up into stand, and maybe circling the arms out. Great work, everyone. Then we can step at the top of our mat, and then we'll flow back into our rest. Again, once we found the top of our mat, you can inhale to circle the arms up. Exhale, swan dive. The last forward fold. Inhaling to halfway lift, tracing the front of the legs. Exhaling to step the hands and step the feet back. Inhaling here into our plank. And exhaling to find the ground with our chest. Inhaling into a baby cobra. And exhaling back to the ground. You can push up and back into downward dog, or finding a pose of rest right away. So swaying here, or bring the knees down whenever you're ready. And I like here as a transition to zip my legs together, to push my seat toward my heels, and then to curl up into a cocoon. So bring my arms down by my sides, and then resting my forehead on the ground. And if that's uncomfortable for your knees or your hips, you can bring the floor closer to you by stacking your hands or your fists, or bringing a prop underneath your forehead. And we'll just be here to slow down our breaths and to transition into our resting practice. Whenever you're ready, you can bring your fingertips closer to your seat or to your knees. Engaging your core and slowly rolling up. And we'll release the seat to one side, the heels to the other. And then taking or bringing any items that you will need to find rest. So maybe adding a layer of clothing, dimming the lights, or grabbing a sip of water. And then we'll set up for our first pose. So to do this first one, we'll get into a supported back bend. And if you join Siobhan's class on Tuesday, this will be familiar. So I like to have a little bolster, and I put it parallel to the ground. You can have a blanket, and if once we get into this position, if it's too much sensation into your front body, you can always lower this. So maybe just stacking a blanket at a low level or rolling it up if you need more. And then we can come and bring the knees bent in front of us to get settled. And there's also the option to have something behind your head, but you want to have a space in between so that your shoulders can land there. And once we'll lay down, we'll want the bolster to be just underneath the shoulder blades. So adjusting as needed. We can slowly roll our back onto the prop and just assessing where it is that our back is landing. Does that feel safe and comfortable to open up? And then maybe adjusting the padding underneath the head, removing it all together. And then we can open our arms out side to side. Maybe here for a few breaths, just accepting that openness into the front body. Be reversing the effects of us being seated all day. And then checking in, making sure that our head and neck feels supported and that we're not engaging the muscles of the neck to stay here. And then maybe lengthening the legs out or widening the knees and letting them fall toward one another. And just breathing and being, and checking in with our body. And if this is uncomfortable, you can bend your knees back and then grabbing hold of your head and neck with one hand, rolling up off the prop, and then making any readjustments as required. Oh, but if you are comfortable, you can stay and land, and I'll support you here in silence for the next few minutes. Taking 5 more full breaths in this shape. Whenever you're ready to come out, slowly bend one knee, bring the sole of the foot on the ground, bending the other. Be staying here for a few breaths to recalibrate. And then we can bring maybe your left hand underneath our head, the base of our head. Engaging our core and then slowly rolling to the right. And maybe relaxing here for a breath. Pushing ourselves back up to sit whenever we're ready. For our next two poses, we'll keep the props right as they are. And then we'll get into a supported side lying, stretching and opening. So here you can have the option to have your legs out, but I feel like that requires a lot of effort for me. So I bend my knees and maybe fishtailing them here on the side. And then setting myself up so that the bolster or the bottom edge of the bolster kind of hits at the bottom of my rib cage, just above my waistline. Then you can experiment like resting your right hand down and then slowly finding the bolster with your right side body. And then here, you can have your right arm out onto the floor, using it as a pillow. And then you can place a pillow underneath your right arm or between your arm and your head. And maybe adjusting the hips as needed. And then option to also bring the right arm above and letting your left arm above your head and letting it rest on your head. Making sure that this is a position that you can find some rest in, that there's nothing pinching into your bottom arm, that it doesn't feel like too much opening into the left side ribs. And everybody seems settled, so I'll leave it at the one choice and I'll support you in silence here as we breathe and open into our left side body and our left side ribs. Taking 5 more full breaths in this shape. When you're ready to come out, you can bring that left arm and that left palm closer to your face. And engaging the core and slowly pressing yourself up. Ooh. Breathing with the sensations on both sides of the body. And taking any movements or stretches that your body may be craving. Maybe going right into the other side. If that's what your sides and your rib cage are asking. So we can set up with the knees bent and the legs elongated. Bring your left hand over the bolster and slowly sliding down and finding that comfortable place to land. It's just above the waist, the bottom of the rib cage. Then maybe bring the left arm underneath you using supports as needed. And bring that right arm above you if you like the sensation. And just finding that place. We can receive that opening without effort, without pain. Simply breathing and opening and being supported by the floor and the cushion. And I'll support you in silence for the next few minutes. Taking 5 more full breaths on the side. And whenever you're ready to come out, turning that right arm and hand closer to you. Mm, elongating that top leg as a lever and pushing yourself back up. Next, I'll invite you to find that one last pose of our practice, really making it your own, using any props or cushions, and finding that place where you can fully rest and surrender the body into the floor, into the wall. And once you've landed in that place, softening the gaze or closing the eyes. And with each exhale, just inviting relaxation, release, and surrender. And I'll bring you back when it's time. Slowly letting your senses bring you back to your body. Noticing the temperature of the air on your skin. Noticing the sounds around you and the sound of my voice. Noticing the sensations of the ground beneath you. Maybe taking note of the colors through your closed eyelids. And slowly start deepening the breath. Letting that breath inspire some gentle movement back into the fingers and the toes, the gentle head and neck nods or rolls. And taking as many movements and as many shapes as you need to. And we'll all meet into a comfortable seated pose to come back together and to close our practice. And if you're still with us, I'll invite you to bring your hands together, palm to palm at heart center. Maybe bowing your head in gratitude for this moment that we've shared together, for our bodies to allow us to move and to play and to feel. And expressing gratitude for anything else that you feel would be worthy right now. And returning your head to center and releasing your hands whenever you feel complete. Thank you so much for practicing with me. My name is Marie, and this was our slow flow and restore practice. May you be well, may you be happy, and may you be healthy. Have a good night.